What if I told you that today's most advanced economy works exactly like a joke from the 1990s? A story where money goes in a perfect circle, everyone looks richer on paper, but in the end, nothing truly changes. Today, we're talking about circular economics, not the textbook version, but the real one happening right now at the highest level of Wall Street, inside the artificial intelligence boom. To understand it, let me start with a simple story. A well-dressed foreign tourist walks into a hotel in Bucharest and leaves a $100 bill at the reception to check a room later. The receptionist immediately uses that money to pay a debt to the butcher pays his girlfriend, she pays her hotel bill, and the same $100 returned to the reception desk. The tourist comes back, doesn't like the room, takes his money, and leaves. The bill ends up exactly where it started, yet every debt in town has been paid. Nothing happened, and everything happened at the same time. Now scale that story from $100 to hundreds of billions, and welcome to modern AI economics. At the top of this circle sits Nvidia. Nvidia invests $2 billion into Anthropic. Anthropic plans to go public and is already being called the IPO of the decade. In return, Anthropic commits to buying billions worth of Nvidia chips. Nvidia also commits hundreds of billions to OpenAI, helping push its valuation toward astronomical levels. OpenAI, backed by those commitments, promises to buy massive cloud infrastructure from Oracle. Oracle, which hasn't even built all that infrastructure yet, promises to sell it anyway, then turns around and buys hundreds of billions in chips from Nvidia to make it happen. The same money moves from Nvidia to OpenAI, from OpenAI to Oracle, and from Oracle straight back to Nvidia. The cash barely leaves the system. No real transfer, no real exit, just circular commitments that inflate revenues, valuations, and headlines. Everyone reports growth. Everyone looks unstoppable. This is how high-level economics works today. But some people have started to notice the cracks. Investors began asking uncomfortable questions. Why are Nvidia's chips being depreciated over 6 years instead of 2? What happens when, after 2 years, customers need to replace them with new models? Why is Nvidia being paid later and later, even as demand is supposedly exploding? That's why Michael Burry placed nearly $1 billion betting against Nvidia and Palantir. That's why SoftBank sold billions worth of Nvidia shares despite publicly praising the company. That's why Peter Thiel quietly exited his Nvidia position while remaining deeply connected to companies that still depend on Nvidia's chips. To understand why this matters, you have to stop reading the first page of earnings reports. Nvidia's quarterly report is 44 pages long, but most investors only read the summary. Revenues up, profits up, guidance strong. If you go deeper, the story changes. On page 8, you find the detailed financials, and that's where anomalies start to appear. Nvidia has over $33 billion in accounts receivable, money owed by customers who already took delivery of chips but haven't paid yet. When you calculate days sales outstanding, Nvidia now waits around 53 days to get paid. A year ago, it was 46. 2 years ago, it was just over 30. Nvidia sells over $600 million per day. So a 7-day delay means more than $4 billion stuck outside the company at any given time. Now compare that to competitors. AMD collects faster. Intel collects faster. TSMC, the company that actually manufactures Nvidia's chips, gets paid in roughly 35 days. Everyone gets paid faster than Nvidia. Why? Either Nvidia is offering extremely relaxed payment terms to keep sales flowing, or some customers simply can't pay on time. When journalists asked Nvidia directly about this anomaly, the company answered with 2 words: no comment. Then there's inventory. Nvidia's inventory jumped from $15 billion to nearly $20 billion in just one quarter, a 32% increase. If demand were truly unlimited, inventory should be shrinking, not growing. In 2023, when the first AI chips launched, inventory dropped sharply because everything sold instantly. Now distributors confirm that chips are sitting on shelves. Some resellers hold Nvidia GPUs for over 70 days. At the same time, GPU rental prices are collapsing. Renting an AI server dropped more than 30% in just a few months. In a market with insane demand, prices don't fall. They rise. The most alarming signal comes from cash flow. Nvidia reported nearly $19 billion in net profit, but generated only $14 billion in actual cash. That's a 75% conversion rate. Compare that to TSMC at over 100%, AMD near 97%, Intel above 90%. When profits don't turn into cash, something is wrong. The money is stuck in receivables and inventory. Yet during this same period, Nvidia spent around $12 billion buying back its own shares. If cash is tight, why buy back stock? Because buybacks boost share price and help compensate engineers with stock options. Nvidia needs to retain talent in a fiercely competitive AI race, and stock promises require shares to exist today. Then comes depreciation. Nvidia depreciates its equipment at around 6.6% per year, while industry standards are closer to 12%. If Nvidia aligned with its peers, net profit would drop by nearly 18%. Suddenly, the stock wouldn't justify its valuation. Suddenly, the numbers would look very different. This is why some investors believe Nvidia's explosive growth exists more on paper than in cash. All of this leads to one concept: the AI circular economy. AI startups buy tens of billions in chips but don't pay immediately. Where does the money come from? From the same tech giants that sell them the chips. Nvidia invests in startups like xAI, Anthropic, and others. Those startups use that money to buy Nvidia chips. Nvidia books revenue. Cash flows in circles. Sometimes it never truly exists. In some cases, contracts even require startups to use a fixed percentage of Nvidia GPUs or face default. You can't negotiate prices, you can't switch suppliers, and you can't slow down purchases. It's the equivalent of being loaned money on the condition that you spend it at the lender's own store. The same model exists between Microsoft and OpenAI, between Oracle and OpenAI, and across the entire AI ecosystem. The problem is simple. Most of these companies don't generate real profits yet. OpenAI reportedly loses billions per year. At some point, fresh money must come from outside investors through IPOs. Anthropic's upcoming listing may become the first real stress test. If it rises and then collapses, confidence will crack. And when confidence cracks, circular systems fail fast. We've already seen warning signs. Oracle surged and then collapsed within weeks. Major investors are exiting quietly. If Nvidia falls significantly, AI startup valuations could be cut in half overnight. Pension funds, banks, and insurers are deeply exposed. One broken link could trigger a chain reaction across the entire sector. There are two visions on Wall Street. The optimistic one says these are temporary anomalies, that AI will generate massive profits in 3 to 5 years, and Nvidia will dominate a multi-trillion-dollar market. The pessimistic one says the numbers don't add up, cash isn't coming in, and the system depends on endless funding. One day, funding stops. As someone once said, a pessimist is often just a well-informed optimist, and investors like Burry, Thiel, and SoftBank are very well informed. So the final question isn't whether artificial intelligence is real or powerful. It is. The real question is whether the economic model built around it is sustainable. Right now, we live in a circular economy where money moves endlessly but rarely leaves the loop. And history tells us one thing very clearly. Circles don't break slowly. They break all at once.